So Ford has released its trend report for 2024 for next year. They do this every year where they put out predictions about work and family, and in this case, the role of artificial intelligence. Kind of a wake-up call for a world in flux, revealing a seismic shift in how people prioritize their lives. So to talk about it, let's bring in Ford's chief futurist, Jennifer Brace, live from Detroit. I've been looking forward to this interview, I think largely, Jennifer, because I think that's the coolest job title I've heard in a long time. It's like being a futurist is like, yeah, that's better than a VP or anything. It's just like, I'm a futurist. So
thanks. I couldn't agree more. I think it's the coolest title at the company.
There you go. I'm sure. I'm sure even the CEO says that and agrees with you. So let me ask you about AI, because we mentioned it, and we'll start it off that way and move down. There's a lot of interesting stuff here stats-wise in this. And the first thing, 68% of people believe artificial intelligence will lead to massive job losses for other people, right?
Yeah.
But only 39% fear significant job losses for themselves. So that's kind of interesting. People think AI is going to take a lot of jobs, but they think their job's okay.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And it's not uncommon, right, that as humans, we think it's going to happen to everybody else. It's not going to happen to me. And I think that's what we're seeing here. It speaks to the fact, though, that we don't fully understand AI as a holistic society, right? There's a lot of questions around what is it doing? How might it impact me? What could it be? So I feel like we're seeing that play out in this idea that people are wary of it. They're afraid of it. They're worried that it's going to have some impacts, but they're not entirely sure of what it means for them yet.
One of the things they said is, I think it was 6 in 10 said it would create a positive work-life balance. What do you think's leading to that? I mean, people think it's just gonna make it easier and work from home and that kind of thing, or?
Yeah, we see some optimism, right? We see a lot of questions around, well, maybe it can be useful. How might it take some of the mundane tasks off my plate? We also saw a big trend this year that people really want to prioritize themselves. They want to be able to focus on what matters to them. Mm-hmm. So there is some hope that maybe AI might be one of those solutions that makes it a little bit easier for them to be able to focus on themselves and on the relationships within their life.
To that point, there were a lot of interesting things in here. Hopefully we'll have time to get to about marriage, people's attitudes towards marriage. But you're talking about priorities in your life. Think about this in your own life, wherever you work now, and if you like your job versus if you don't like your job. A lot of people said, the number was 52%, people who are employed. They take a 20% pay cut, basically if it gave them a better quality of life. They'd be willing to say, I mean, I guess this is sort of a privileged comment, let's be honest. In some ways, you have to be able to afford to take the pay cut. But for people who say, yeah, I could get by with a little less, I'd rather have a better life.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I was shocked when I saw how high that number was in terms of people that were willing to take a pay cut for that, because it's not an insignificant number when we talk about a 20% pay cut. It's a lot, but it does speak to the fact that people are really wanting to prioritize quality of life. They're really wanting to focus on themselves. They're questioning if a job is really worth it, if it's going to increase their stress. They're even willing to do things like give up advancements at work if it's going to add stress or take away from being able to prioritize what they feel is more important than work in terms of their personal well-being or the relationships in their lives.
Yeah, I mentioned marriage and your outlook on not only getting married, but having children. And there was some stuff in there which you could talk about, maybe I'd rather have a pet than a child. I have 3 children and 2 pets, by the way, equal all across the board, not all of them. But that's changing, right? Especially young people, so-called Gen Z type of people. What did you find on that? Because that speaks to exactly what you're talking about, the type of life someone wants, right?
You got it. So we see what we're calling family 2.0, or the shifting definition of what's going to be important and what it takes to be considered complete as a family. And we're seeing people really questioning, does it need to be marriage? Does it need to be having kids? And what's interesting is we are continuing to see numbers go up when it comes to people saying, I'm not sure I need to get married, or I'm not sure I need kids. And something that was kind of fun was we saw people saying that they saw pets in their future more often than they saw kids in their future. So those fur babies taking precedent in the family life.
It's also, I said it was younger people, but it is higher, I think, right, with the younger people. But you see some of the older even going up. I guess I'm Gen X, but go up baby boomers and the like. They kind of have similar thoughts too. Like a lot is changing in the way people see kind of traditional life in general.
Yeah, exactly. We saw that shift really across the board. Certainly, it gets talked about at younger generations quite a bit, especially as there's shifting views on family life in particular and having children, things like that. But we did see it. We did see it even in our older generation saying, I don't know if marriage is a necessity anymore.
You know, one last thing that I don't know if you know this or not, but it would be interesting because you guys do this all the time. How accurate are people about predicting the future trends in the world? I mean, in other words, when you look back at past years, do people just say crazy things, or are they gotten it right a lot of times with these trend surveys?
You know, I wouldn't say people necessarily say crazy things. Certainly, they are not perfect at predicting their future behaviors. But at least we can ask them what they expect in the future, and it gives us something that we can continue to track so that we understand how they might be aspiring to a future self or what they want moving forward, even if it might not always be exactly on point.
Well, interesting conversation. I think it's my first, maybe with a futurist, or maybe, I don't know, but I enjoyed it. Thank you, Jennifer.
Me as well. Thank you.
Jennifer Brace from Ford. Thanks so much for watching. Just go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.